Listen, stop everything you're doing right now because what I'm about to reveal to you this morning could save you thousands of dollars this summer alone. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that the information I've uncovered in the last 24 hours has completely changed everything I thought I knew about how the modern world actually works. I've spent 15 years analyzing financial systems, tracking precious metals markets, watching how billion-dollar industries manipulate consumer behavior, and what I discovered buried in research papers, historical records, and industry documents that nobody wants you to see is so simple, so devastatingly effective, that the moment you understand it, you're going to feel the same mix of anger and liberation that hit me when I finally connected all the dots. You are hemorrhaging money right now, and you don't even know it. Every single month, hundreds of dollars are draining out of your bank account because of a lie that was sold to your parents and their parents before them. The electricity bill sitting on your counter, the one that spikes every summer and makes you wince when you open it, that bill exists because a $200 billion industry decided a century ago that you should never learn about a white powder that costs $7 at any hardware store and does the job of a $15,000 machine. I'm talking about cooling your home, keeping your family comfortable through brutal summer heat, and doing it for pennies while everyone around you bleeds cash into the pockets of corporations that have systematically buried the simplest solution humanity ever invented. But here's where this connects to something much bigger than your electricity bill. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is a pattern, a playbook that the financial elite have used for over a century to extract wealth from ordinary people. The same forces that suppressed this cooling technology are the same forces manipulating precious metals markets, the same interests that want you dependent on systems they control, the same power structures that need you ignorant to maintain their grip on the global economy. This isn't just about saving money on air conditioning. This is about understanding how the game is rigged and finally learning how to stop playing by their rules. Let me show you exactly what I mean. In 1973, a researcher at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California did something that should have changed the world. He took a flat rooftop and painted it with simple powdered limestone. Nothing fancy, just crushed calcium carbonate mixed with water. The exact same recipe that Greek grandmothers had been using for 3,000 years across their small island villages. What happened next should have made headlines in every newspaper on Earth. That white roof dropped its surface temperature by 40 degrees compared to the dark roof right beside it. Interior building temperatures fell by 8 degrees. That building needed zero air conditioning the entire summer. A $14 bag of hydrated lime from any hardware store outperformed a $5,000 air conditioning system. Now I need you to really hear what I just said because the implications are staggering. A substance that has been known to humanity for over 4,000 years, that costs less than a fast food meal, that any person can apply in a single afternoon, that substance provides more cooling power than the machine you're probably paying hundreds of dollars a month to run right now. This isn't speculation, this isn't theory, this is peer-reviewed science confirmed by multiple major universities and certified by Guinness World Records. The whitest paint formula ever recorded reflects 98.1% of all sunlight that touches its surface. Commercial white paint maxes out at 80%. Surfaces coated with this formula don't just stay cool, they actually drop below the ambient air temperature. During the day, 8 degrees cooler. At night, 19 degrees cooler. Professor Julien Rouen at Purdue University calculated that painting 1,000 square feet of roof produces a cooling power of 10 kilowatts of constant output. That is more powerful than the central air conditioning system running in most American homes. A coat of paint generates more cooling than your entire HVAC system uses without a single watt of electrical power. But here's where it gets wild. After CNN ran stories about this, after the Smithsonian wrote about it in full detail, after every major science outlet in the world reported on this breakthrough, something very strange and very quiet happened. Absolutely nothing changed in the industry. The global paint industry kept selling you products designed to fail in 5 to 7 years. The air conditioning industry kept selling you machines that require monthly payments forever. The building code industry kept mandating dark roofing materials in communities across America, and you kept paying month after month, year after year, for a problem that was solved before your great-great-grandparents were born. This is the pattern I need you to understand because it's the same pattern playing out in precious metals markets right now, the same pattern that's going to determine who builds wealth and who loses everything in the financial chaos that's coming. The powerful don't suppress solutions because they fail. They suppress solutions because they work too well. Anything that cannot generate recurring revenue must be forgotten. Anything that frees you from dependence threatens their entire business model. And right now, as I speak these words to you, there are forces working overtime to make sure you never connect these dots. Let me take you back in time because history is the key to understanding what's really happening. Travel with me to 1500 BC, to the volcanic Cretan Isle, where the Minoans had already figured out what modern science would confirm 3,500 years later. They plastered their walls pure white using calcium lime burned from locally sourced limestone. Dark stone absorbed every ray of heat like a baking oven, so they crushed the local rocks, mixed in water, and painted every surface directly facing the blazing Mediterranean sun. Indoor temperatures stayed around 72 degrees all day, even when the brutal outside summer air reached 95. No electricity, no mechanical systems of any kind, just limestone combined with sunlight and the basic physics of solar bounce. The technique spread everywhere. Santorini, Mykonos, Morocco, southern Spain, southern Italy, millions of homes across millennia. For thousands of years, billions of people cooled their homes with this simple white powder that cost almost nothing to make. Your ancestors knew this. The villages that still line the Mediterranean coastline, those brilliant white structures you see in vacation photographs, they're not white because of aesthetics. They're white because the people who built them understood a truth that modern corporations have spent a century trying to make you forget. And then, in 1902, Willis Carrier invented what we now call modern residential air conditioning, not because air conditioning was actually better than the powder, not because it solved a problem that hadn't already been solved, but because air conditioning could be sold to you each month forever. You need to understand what happened next because it's a case study in how industries capture and control populations. Lime paint could never generate recurring revenue. You buy it once, you mix it with water, you paint your roof, and it works for years without any subscription or contract. No filter to replace, no monthly electricity bill, no service calls, no planned obsolescence. The air conditioning industry looked at a $14 solution to the problem they were planning to charge you thousands for, and they made a decision that has cost American families trillions of dollars over the past century. They buried it, not by banning it, not by making it illegal, but by something far more insidious. They simply made sure you never learned its name. This is where I need you to pay extremely close attention because the same playbook is being used right now to suppress what's happening in precious metals markets, and if you don't understand how this works, you're going to be blindsided by what's coming in the next 12 months. The combined global revenue of the air conditioning and paint industries exceeds $300 billion annually. $300 billion, that depends on you not knowing about a $7 bag of powder at your local hardware store. That kind of money doesn't just buy products, it buys influence. It buys building codes. It buys homeowner association regulations. It buys silence. Let me show you exactly how deep this goes. Homeowner associations across dozens of American states now explicitly prohibit white-colored or highly reflective roofing surfaces. They demand earth tones, browns, and dark grays, the exact colors that absorb maximum solar heat, and mathematically guarantee that you need air conditioning. This is fully documented inside HOA rule books. You can find it yourself if you look. The roofing industry set standards favoring commercial products that need scheduled replacement and generate steady revenue. A $14 bag of lime generates zero industry profit, so the industry made sure it was left out of every specification, every building code, every contractor certification program. You cannot patent limestone. You cannot trademark calcium hydroxide. And what you cannot control, you must bury. But here's the thing they didn't count on. Information wants to be free. The internet has made it impossible to completely suppress knowledge the way they could in the 20th century. And right now, in communities across America and around the world, people are waking up to the fact that they've been paying thousands of dollars for something their great-grandmothers got for free. A homeowner in Texas did exactly what I'm about to teach you. He bought 2 bags of Type S hydrated lime, mixed it with water until it looked like thin milk, and applied it to his roof in a single afternoon. His attic went from 140 degrees down to 97. His indoor temperature fell by 10 degrees across his entire home. His air conditioning barely turned on all summer. He estimated over $1,200 saved in electricity in just that single year from $28 worth of powder. Now compare that to what the industry wants you to do. A new central air conditioning installation costs $5,000 to $15,000 up front. Monthly electricity bills during summer run $150 or higher. Annual maintenance and repairs add up, filter replacements, refrigerant refills, and in 7 to 15 years, you get to do it all over again when the system fails. The total lifetime cost of air conditioning a typical American home is measured in tens of thousands of dollars, or 2 bags of lime applied once each year. Zero electricity, zero maintenance, zero corporate dependence. The Greeks figured this out before writing existed. The Romans used it to cool entire cities across their empire. And for 100 years, you've been paying for something you never needed to buy. Stay with me now because this is where everything connects to what's happening in the global financial system right now and why the next 18 months are going to be the most important of your financial life. The same pattern of suppression, the same playbook of burying simple solutions to maintain profitable complexity, the same power structures that need your ignorance to survive, all of it is playing out in real time in precious metals markets. And if you don't understand what's happening, you're going to be on the wrong side of the greatest wealth transfer in human history. Let me explain what I mean by the death spiral that's currently unfolding in the global monetary system. For decades, central banks have been playing a game that cannot continue forever. They've been printing money, suppressing interest rates, and creating the illusion of prosperity while real wealth concentrates in fewer and fewer hands. The national debt has exploded past $34 trillion, a number so large that most people can't even conceptualize it. Interest payments on that debt now exceed what the government spends on national defense. And here's the part they absolutely do not want you to understand. There is no mathematical way out of this situation without massive currency devaluation, meaning the dollars in your bank account are going to buy less and less with each passing year until they're worth a fraction of what they're worth today. This isn't conspiracy theory, this is arithmetic. When a government owes more money than it can ever possibly repay through taxation, it has only two options: default openly, which would crash the entire global financial system and end the careers of everyone in power, or default quietly through inflation, which steals wealth from savers while technically honoring all obligations. Every empire in history that has found itself in this position has chosen option two. Every single one. Rome debased its currency until the silver content of their coins dropped from nearly pure to less than 5%. Weimar Germany printed money until it took a wheelbarrow of cash to buy a loaf of bread. More recently, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina all followed the same playbook with the same results. And right now, the United States is further down this path than at any point in its history. Here's where precious metals enter the picture and why understanding this is as important as understanding the cooling technology they tried to hide from you. Gold and silver are the only forms of money that cannot be printed into existence. They're the only assets that have no counterparty risk, meaning their value doesn't depend on someone else's promise to pay. For 5,000 years of recorded human history, precious metals have been the ultimate store of wealth, the thing people fled to when paper currencies collapsed, the insurance policy that has never failed to protect its holders through financial crises, wars, and the fall of empires. But just like the simple white powder that can replace your air conditioning, the financial establishment has a massive incentive to keep you ignorant about real money. If everyone understood what I'm about to tell you, if the American public suddenly realized that the pieces of paper in their wallets are backed by nothing but faith in a government drowning in unpayable debt, the entire system would transform overnight. The banks, the hedge funds, the politicians who benefit from the current arrangement, they need you confused. They need you distracted. They need you to believe that the stock market is the only place to build wealth, that crypto is the future, that real estate only goes up, that gold is a barbarous relic with no place in a modern portfolio, and they've been remarkably successful at maintaining this illusion. Let me show you what's really happening in the precious metals market right now, because the manipulation I'm about to describe makes the suppression of cooling technology look like child's play. For decades, major banks have been caught repeatedly, documented in court cases and regulatory filings, systematically suppressing the price of gold and silver through paper contracts that have no real metal behind them. The COMEX, the primary exchange where precious metals prices are set, trades paper claims to gold and silver at ratios that sometimes exceed 100 to 1 versus actual physical metal. Think about what that means. For every ounce of real silver that exists, there are potentially 100 claims to that same ounce being traded. It's musical chairs with 99 people standing and only one chair in the room. This artificial suppression has kept precious metals prices far below where they would naturally trade based on supply and demand fundamentals. Silver, which was once valued at a ratio of about 15 to 1 versus gold throughout most of human history, now trades at ratios exceeding 80 to 1. Industrial demand for silver in electronics, solar panels, and medical equipment is exploding while mine production flatlines. Above-ground silver stockpiles that once measured in the billions of ounces have been depleted to the point where the available supply would be measured in mere months if industrial users had to rely solely on existing inventory. The setup for a massive price revaluation is unlike anything seen in a generation. But here's where it gets truly explosive, and why I'm convinced that the next 12 to 18 months represent a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for people who understand what's happening. The same geopolitical forces that are reshaping the global order are converging on precious metals markets in ways that the suppressors cannot control. Russia, China, and the BRICS nations have been accumulating gold at unprecedented rates, building reserves that now rival or exceed Western holdings. They're actively constructing alternative payment systems that bypass the dollar entirely. The weaponization of the SWIFT banking system against Russia has accelerated a global movement away from dollar dependence, and that movement is building momentum faster than most Western analysts want to admit. The petrodollar system that has underpinned American financial dominance since the 1970s is fracturing. Saudi Arabia is openly discussing accepting yuan for oil payments. Major commodity exporters are signing bilateral agreements to trade in local currencies. Central banks around the world are buying gold at the fastest pace in 50 years. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented facts reported in mainstream financial publications, and they all point in the same direction: a fundamental restructuring of the global monetary system that will leave unprepared people devastated and prepared people wealthy beyond their current imagination. Now, I need to be completely honest with you about something, because I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to know. Just like lime paint isn't a perfect solution for every surface and needs reapplication every couple of years, precious metals aren't a magic solution that will make you rich overnight. Gold and silver prices can be volatile in the short term. The manipulation I described can push prices down as well as up. There are costs to buying, storing, and eventually selling physical metals that eat into returns. Anyone who tells you that precious metals only go up is either lying to you or doesn't understand the market. But here's what I know with absolute certainty after 15 years of studying these markets. In a world where every major currency is being debased, where governments are drowning in debt they can never repay, where the geopolitical order that has existed since World War II is being actively dismantled, where central banks themselves are accumulating gold as fast as they can get their hands on it, in that world, having zero exposure to precious metals is a form of financial insanity. It's like having zero insurance on your home because fires rarely happen until one does. The wealthy understand this. The truly rich, not the people who look rich because they drive leased luxury cars and carry massive mortgages, but the people who actually have multi-generational wealth. They have always allocated a portion of their holdings to precious metals. The Rothschilds, the old European banking families, the Arab oil kingdoms, they all hold substantial gold reserves as the foundation of their wealth. They're not doing this because they're stupid. They're doing it because they understand something about money and value that the average person has been deliberately kept ignorant about. Let me connect this back to the bigger picture of how industries and power structures maintain control through artificial scarcity and suppressed knowledge. The air conditioning industry didn't need to ban lime paint to keep it from threatening their business model. They just needed to make sure nobody talked about it, that it wasn't included in building codes, that contractors weren't trained on how to apply it, that homeowner associations required dark colors, that the conversation was always steered toward their profitable solutions. The same pattern operates in finance. They don't need to ban gold and silver ownership. They just need to make sure it's never discussed in mainstream financial media, that financial advisors aren't trained to recommend it, that the paper manipulation suppresses prices enough to make physical ownership seem pointless, that the conversation is always steered toward products that generate fees and commissions for Wall Street. In both cases, the solution exists. It's right there in plain sight for anyone who knows where to look. The $7 bag of lime at the hardware store, the ounce of silver at your local coin dealer, neither requires permission from the system that profits from your ignorance. Neither generates recurring revenue for corporations that depend on your perpetual dependence, and that's precisely why neither is ever presented to you as a legitimate option by the institutions that claim to have your best interests at heart. But here's where we are right now, and why I felt compelled to share this information today. The window for action on both fronts is closing faster than most people realize. On the cooling side, summer is coming, and every month you delay applying this technology is another $100 or more that drains from your bank account into the pockets of utility companies that would prefer you never learn what I just told you. On the precious metal side, the geopolitical developments I described are accelerating, and the prices you can buy at today may look impossibly cheap in retrospect when you're looking back from 2 or 3 years in the future. I'm not telling you to go out tomorrow and put your entire life savings into silver coins. That would be irresponsible, and I don't give specific financial advice because I don't know your individual situation. What I am telling you is that the same forces that suppressed simple cooling technology for 100 years are actively suppressing information about real money and real value right now. And if you don't take the time to educate yourself about what's actually happening, you're going to be blindsided by changes that the informed minority saw coming years in advance. The geopolitical situation adds urgency to everything I'm describing. The tension between major powers is at levels not seen since the Cold War. The sanctions regime against Russia has accelerated the fragmentation of the global financial system in ways that cannot be undone. Every week brings new announcements of trade agreements that bypass the dollar, new central bank gold purchases, new cracks in the architecture that has defined global finance for half a century. The people who understand what this means are quietly positioning themselves, while the people who don't are distracted by the latest political scandal or celebrity drama that dominates the news cycle. Let me give you the practical steps you can take starting today, because knowledge without action is worthless. On the cooling side, go to any hardware store and buy one 50-pound bag of Type S hydrated lime. It costs $7 to $14. Mix the powder with water until it looks like thin milk, about 1 part lime to 2 parts water, stirred until smooth. Apply it with a thick roller or brush onto your roof surface in 2 full coats, letting the first coat dry completely overnight. Total cost for an average-sized roof is $14 to $28. Total time is 1 afternoon of easy work. This won't replace your air conditioning entirely if you live in an extreme climate, but it will dramatically reduce your cooling needs and cut your electricity bills by amounts that will shock you. On the precious metals side, start by educating yourself about what's actually happening in these markets. Don't take my word for it. Look up the COMEX delivery statistics yourself. Research central bank gold purchasing data from the World Gold Council. Read about the BRICS payment system developments from mainstream financial sources. Once you understand the landscape, consider whether having some portion of your savings in physical precious metals makes sense for your situation. Not paper ETFs that may or may not have the metal they claim, but actual physical coins or bars that you can hold in your hand and store in a secure location. The beauty of both approaches is their simplicity. They don't require special expertise or expensive advisors. They don't generate fees for middlemen. They don't depend on the continued functioning of complex systems that you don't control. And they cannot be taken from you by decisions made in corporate boardrooms or government offices thousands of miles away. In a world that grows more complex and fragile every year, simplicity is a survival advantage that most people have forgotten how to value. I want to address something directly because I know there are people listening who are thinking that this all sounds too conspiratorial, too paranoid, too outside the mainstream consensus to be true. Let me ask you a question. 100 years ago, if someone had told you that the solution to cooling your home existed in a $7 bag of powder at the hardware store, would you have believed them? Or would you have assumed that if it really worked, you would have heard about it from the experts, the corporations, the institutions whose job it is to provide you with the best solutions, the same institutions that profit from selling you the expensive alternative? The pattern I'm describing isn't conspiracy in the sense of a group of people meeting in smoke-filled rooms to explicitly plan the suppression of information. It's something more subtle and arguably more effective. It's the natural result of incentive structures that reward certain kinds of information while punishing others. No one at a paint company needs to receive a memo telling them not to talk about lime whitewash. They simply know without being told that promoting a $7 alternative to their products would not be career-enhancing. No one at a financial advisory firm needs explicit instructions to ignore precious metals. They simply know that recommending products that don't generate ongoing management fees would hurt their income and advancement prospects. The system doesn't require explicit conspirators because the incentives are so perfectly aligned that everyone acts as if they were conspiring even without coordination. This is why the suppression is so effective, and why most of the people involved don't even realize they're part of it. The air conditioning installer genuinely believes he's providing the best solution for his customers because that's what he was trained to believe by an industry that needed him to believe it. The financial advisor genuinely thinks stocks and bonds are the only legitimate investments because that's what he learned in his certification courses, and that's what generates his commission checks. They're not lying to you because they don't know any better, and the system was specifically designed to ensure they never would. Your great-grandmother knew about the lime. She painted her home every spring without thinking twice about it because everyone in her village understood what modern corporations have spent a century making you forget. The simple solutions work. They've always worked. They just don't generate enough profit to merit attention from industries that need your dependence to survive. Consider this your invitation to stop being dependent, to stop paying for solutions to problems that were solved thousands of years ago, to stop trusting institutions that profit from your ignorance, to start thinking for yourself about what's actually happening in the world and what you can do about it. The information is in your hands now. What you do with it is up to you.